Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy DKEN, and welcome to my incredible podcast. Now, before we commence this episode, do not forget to power bash, or should I say Hulk smash that like button. Subscribe to my channel. Share this with your boys and your families. Follow me on Instagram. Smash that bell notification button. And of course, as always, enjoy. Let's get started. Our top story for today shall be, is Law Order SVU a good show or a bad show? Please put your opinions down on the comment section below. I personally believe that this show is straight up dog shit and trash mixed up together, okay? Now, before I move on any further, I want all of you to understand the following things. One, I repeat, I do not have any prejudice whatsoever towards this show. I promise you that. So for those of you that intend to crucify me simply because I dislike the show, then this podcast episode is not for you. You need to click off of this video and spread your hate somewhere else, okay? Because I don't have the time to respond to your liberal, feminazi, social justice warrior bullshit, okay? Just keep that in mind. Number two, I refuse to speak in code for this video because I shall choose to go all out on this specific video. Number three, I was a fan of this show. I used to love this show. I remember that there was a time when I would sit down and watch episode after episode of this show, regardless of what season it was. And then I started to look at this show in a different perspective. I promise you, I shall go into concrete detail and in great depth as to why I hate this show. I promise you that. Number four, I do love some of the characters that have been on this show for a long time, like Sergeant Finn and Sergeant Munch, okay? And lastly, number five, I will say that even up to this day, I love the original Law & Order. Not just because of the theme song, not just because of all the characters that were introduced to that show, but because of all of the adventures that we've got to witness as the characters themselves venture into the city to fight all sorts of crimes. See that? That's the original theme song that I grew up with. I'm not saying that the new SVU theme is bad. It's fine. But the old theme simply brings back nostalgic and memorable moments. Okay? But enough of all that. Let's move on as to why SVU is a trash-ass show, in my personal opinion. Okay? Here we go. Okay, so let's dive right into it. The number one thing that I loathe the most about this show is the negative atmosphere, or in other words, the vibe that this show gives off. Here's how I would explain this. Every time the cops bring anybody to the interrogation room, they always have to make sure that they have the guy that they're looking for. However, the way it works is this. We live in a world where anytime you're brought into some interrogation room, you are guilty until proven innocent. That's the way it works, okay? Now, in my personal opinion, what this show is trying to teach its audience is that if you are a creep of some sort, that means that you are a suspect. You're the bad guy. Or if you have a tendency of chasing females, it must mean that you are a stalker. That's the vibe that this show is giving off. Now, with the power of Google, let's define those two words, creep and stalker. Okay, here we go. Okay, so the first word, creep, is defined as two verbs. 1. Move slowly and carefully in order to avoid being heard or noticed. And similar words pop up right below that sentence. Let's read what's between the quotes. It says, he crept downstairs, hardly making any noise. The second verb states, of a plant, in parentheses, grow along the ground or other surface by means of extending stems or branches. And it says below, thorny roses crept up the dull gray walls. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking, okay? So, using the Google definition, it doesn't necessarily bring us to speed as to what specifically defines a creep in a female's perspective. So with that said, I'll fill you in myself. Here we go. When a female says that you're creepy, what she really means is, ill, you are unattractive. Ill, I'm not into you. Ill, leave me alone. Ill, what is wrong with you? Ill, you're so disgusting. Ill, why are you following me? Ill, why are you following me at home? Ill, why are you looking at me like that? Ill, why are you dressed like that? Ill, you must have no money. That's what she really means when you're being a creep. Like, she's not into you and you're doing something to basically sound her alarm bells. That's what she really means. So with all of that said, I had to resort to going under the section where it says people also ask, where they have like additional tabs as to what defines a creep. So as you can see, the question says, what is creep person? I think they meant to say, what is a creep? So it says, an unpleasant person, especially a man. Okay, so right away we have man shaming. He was such a creep. He was always staring at me in the canteen. Leave me alone, creep. So as you can see, the first tab doesn't even explain in concrete detail what defines a creep. And this is just the first tab. We still got a little more to go. Let's take a look at the next tab where it says, how do you know if you're a creep? And it says, and I quote, participants rated the following as the most likely characteristics of a creepy person. The person stood too close to your friend. The person had greasy hair. The person had a peculiar smile. The person had bulging eyes. The person had long fingers. The person had unkempt hair. The person had very pale skin. Okay, next tab. Let's move on to the section where it says, what does creepy guy mean? And it says, if you say that something or someone is creepy, you mean they make you feel very nervous or frightened. To the average guy, the average guy's not going to understand what the fuck you mean when you phrase it like this. I'll tell you that. Next tab. How do you creep someone out? It reads, and I quote, freak people out with one of the suggestions below or make your own. Propose to random strangers in random places. Ask for advice with very personal problems. Act like you're old friends with a stranger. Make bizarre romantic remarks. Expose the world to personal arguments. Next tab. What does a creep look like? And it says, and I quote, most people do not feel comfortable sharing personal things with anyone other than close friends and family. If you are that person that likes to pry personal information from others, you have most likely been labeled as a creep. Take the time to really get to know someone before you pop out super personal questions. That is still not enough information. Next tab where it says, what makes a man a creep? It says, and I quote, a lack of awareness or respect for personal boundaries. This could be as overt and threatening as stalking, but can also be subtle things such as trying to chat to someone who is wearing earphones or reading. Other examples might be staring, catcalling, following, asking inappropriate questions, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to get straight to the point and I'm going to make this quick, nice and easy for all of y'all to understand, okay? If a female tells you straight up that you are creepy, she is not into you. You are not her type. Basic and simple. And whatever you do, gentlemen, do not chase pussy. do not go around chasing females, okay? Do not hit on them. Do not pursue them at any cost, okay? Under any circumstances whatsoever, you hear me? Because if you do that and you are not her type, she has no problem perceiving you as a stalker and reporting you to the authorities. You understand that? So whatever you do, keep your distance, okay? Very simple. Alrighty, so that was the definition of the word creep. Now let's move on to the next word, stalker. Let's read what it says. The first sentence says, and I quote, a person who harasses or persecutes someone with unwanted and obsessive attention. Under the sentence, it says, and I quote, Tracy claimed she was the victim of a stalker. Now let's move on to the next sentence. It says, and I quote, a person who hunts game stealthily. And under that, the sentence says, and I quote, a keen fisherman and deer stalker. Now, let's see what the other tabs have to say. Let's advance to the tab where it says, what is to stalk a person? It says, and I quote, stalking is unwanted and or repeated surveillance by an individual or group toward another person. Stalking behaviors are interrelated to harassment and intimidation and may include following the victim in person or monitoring them. Now let's go to the next tab where it says, what is the true definition of stalker? It says, and I quote, 1. A person who stalks, a person who pursues someone obsessively and aggressively to the point of harassment. Celebrities, stalkers. In 1990, California was the first state to pass a stalking law that made it a crime to follow, threaten, or harass someone, especially if the stalker threatened violence. Now let's move on to the next tab. What is an example of stalking? And it says, and I quote, common stalking behaviors include repeated and unwanted communications through phone calls, mail, emails, or social media sites, following the victim to work, school, home, or other places where they frequently visit, making threats to the victim either directly or indirectly, repeatedly sending the victim unwanted ... I think they meant to say unwanted messages. Alrighty, now let's go to the next tab where it says, what is the most common type of stalking? And it says, and I quote, simple obsessional. This is the most common type of stalker. The stalker is usually a male, and the focus of the stalking is an ex-wife, ex-lover, or former boss. In intimate relationships, the stalking frequently starts before the breakup. So keep that in mind, everybody. Alrighty, let's move on to the next tab. How do you not stalk someone? And it says, and I quote, 10 ways to stop yourself from stalking your ex online. First, delete everything. Second, ask your friends for tough love. Ask them to let you know what you're being obsessive ... and stops right there. Number 3, sponsored, the best dating relationships advice on the web. Number 4, start a stalk jar. Number 5, keep busy, or I think they meant to say keep yourself busy. Number 6, stalk a celebrity instead. I don't see how that fucking helps, I'll be honest with you. Number 7, find a replacement habit ... Number 8, get back in the dating game. So I would say, in my opinion, number 1, number 5, and number 8 are the most effective tactics in this particular section so far. So a lot of you may be asking, why am I bringing all of this up? And you need to understand it's because this is for both men and females, especially the men, okay? It's because if you start doing things that others find to be questionable, then they're going to start getting all sorts of ideas in their head. They're going to start thinking, hey, this guy might be some sort of predator. Hey, this guy might be stalking me. This guy might be doing some recon from a distance, okay? So, gentlemen, especially to the men out there, I am imploring you, I'm begging you, I'm pleading with you. Please do not chase these females. As a matter of fact, don't chase females at all, okay? Stop chasing the peace sleeve, okay? You don't want to end up like this guy from Law Order SVU. For those of you that do not recall this episode of this show, I shall refresh your memories right now. This was from season 16, episode 13. The episode was called DKEN Morality. Now, this episode first started out where this blonde female was basically strolling down the streets of New York City, and she wasn't feeling that well, and as she's strolling down the streets, she keeps getting hit on by a bunch of random guys, and then she goes into some random pizzeria, she locks herself into the bathroom, and then this guy who worked in the pizzeria said that, hey, you need to come out, I have a bunch of customers that need to use the bathroom. And so she says go away, but he decides to unlock the door himself, and let's just say all hell breaks loose within a matter of seconds. The physical altercation between that employee and the female victim basically escalates to the point where they take it outside, and the SVU detectives come in and basically find out what the fuck is going on. And right in that moment, she accuses him of rape. He ends up getting arrested and detained, and then he gets put into the interrogation room, and the other detectives try to get down to business and try to find out what really happened in that bathroom, and they themselves were determining whether or not he should be charged. But he was innocent the whole time, and the cops had no idea. Of course, I would love to bring up the fact that she was getting hit on by a bunch of random guys. And don't get me wrong, okay? New York City is full of clueless beta male bitches that have no idea what the fuck they're doing. They don't even know how to interact with females, okay? They're chasing pussy. They're chasing peace leave like there's no fucking tomorrow, okay? And I get it. A bunch of you that belong in the progressive category, for those of you that support the fight against street harassment, and I'm putting that terminology in quotes, I get it. You don't like it when a random guy comes up to your face and asks you, hey, pretty girl, God bless you, how you doing? I get it. You don't like it. It makes you uncomfortable because you don't know who those people are in the first place, okay? So I will acknowledge that. But getting back to the point that I was making with this guy that got detained by the cops. Now, you don't want to end up like this guy, because what happens if one day, it could be anywhere. It could be in a pizzeria, it could be in a cafe, it don't matter where the fuck you are. You don't know who's having a bad day. You don't know who is a trauma victim or a survivor of some traumatic event, okay? You don't know who's who. You don't know who has what, okay? What happens if someday, any day, it could be any day whatsoever in the calendar, you're out and about, wandering around in the streets, and you're interacting with a female, and then you do something that triggers her bad side, and then what happens next? Cops show up, and then she accuses you of a crime that you did not commit in the first place. My point being is, always be mindful of what you say, but more importantly, be mindful of the things that you do, okay? Do not end up like this guy that got detained, okay? Simple as that. Now, before we proceed to this section, I know that a bunch of you have heard the terminology toxic masculinity, okay? Now, as an overview, let's go over to Google and search up the definition of toxic masculinity, just so that we are all on the same page, okay? Here we go. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we're here on Google. Now let's take a look at the general definition of toxic masculinity. It says, and I quote, "The concept of toxic masculinity is used in academic and media discussions of masculinity to refer to certain cultural norms that are associated with harm to society and men themselves." With that kind of definition, it is not going to explain what toxic masculinity really is. So let's take a look at the other tabs. Now let's move on to the section where it says, what is the meaning of toxic masculinity? It says, and I quote, "Toxic masculinity involves cultural pressures for men to behave in a certain way, and it's likely this affects all boys and men in some fashion. Toxic masculinity refers to the notion that some people's idea of manliners perpetrates domination, homophobia, and aggression. I suppose that explains a little bit, but let's dive in a little deeper to this definition right here. It says, and I quote, according to Cooper's, toxic masculinity includes aspects of hegemonic masculinity that are socially destructive, quotes such as misogyny, homophobia, greed, and violent domination. So, I suppose these things that were just said were simply examples that indicate quote-unquote toxic masculinity. Now let's move on to one more tab under how does toxic masculinity affect men's health and well-being. And it says, and I quote, these masculine norms correlated with increased mental health problems like stress, depression, and other psychological problems. But the greatest negative effect was on social functioning. These men are more likely to feel lonely, hostile, and less likely to have the benefit of strong, loving social bonds. So a lot of you may be asking, well, hey, why are you bringing this up? And the answer is, it's because that this is one of the things that this show is promoting. They believe that toxic masculinity is not only a thing, but being a man is not okay. In terms of toxic masculinity, this show, let alone society, especially in Democratic-controlled cities like New York City, they all believe that there are certain things that men cannot do, okay? That's a way of emasculating men. Things like going up to random females down the streets and saying, hey, God bless you, mommy. Hey, what's going on with you? And just following her to wherever the fuck she's going. Or just being loud and obnoxious. Or you're criticizing a female based on something that she did wrong, and then all of a sudden she fucking calls you a misogynist. Or the simple fact that you're not into transgender females, and then right off the bat, a group of leftist morons start calling you homophobic. These are examples of so-called toxic masculinity. And by the way, this terminology, and I think I have to point this out, this terminology was invented by either a feminist or social justice warrior. I know for a fact that those two leftist groups definitely love SVU. And those two leftist groups are always talking about smashing the patriarchy, power to the females, and bullshit like that. Again, emasculating men. These are examples. Now, without getting sidetracked, there's another reason why I bring this up. There was an episode where the prosecutor, Stone, brings this up in the courtroom. Check out this short clip.
Men are strong. They're the hunters, the fighters, the spear throwers, the sword swingers, the gunslingers.
I would say that is the most accurate description of masculine men.
You get in a fist fight? That's okay. It'll make you a man. You grab a little ass? Hey, that's what men do. But what if you cry?
Not only have I experienced this part myself, but I promise you, a bunch of people in general will tell you this. Now, if a man was to cry, well, then society will perceive that as a weakness. Because remember, men in general, they're supposed to keep their emotions inside. Never show your weaknesses, never show your emotions. That's how real men are designed. Masculine men, they don't show any of that bullshit because they know that masculine men, they're supposed to remain strong no matter what gets thrown at them. Let's continue.
Or show empathy. Or God forbid, you can't shoot a little rabbit? Well, I'm sorry, you just don't deserve to be my son.
So the examples that Stone provided. Now, if you thought that what he said was bad enough in terms of shaming men, here are other examples that are even worse than that.
Boys don't cry. Man up. Girls are smarter. Girls mature faster. Pink is for girls. She's too pretty for you. You're still a virgin? That's pathetic. All men are dog. Nice guys finish last. Why can't you be more like him? You must be overcompensating. I don't date shorter guys. She didn't rape you. You liked it. Men can't be raped. Don't hold the door for me, misogynist. Where are all the good men at? Get a better paying job. You're working too much. You need a hobby, but not that hobby. That hobby's too expensive. If you want to do that, you're going to need to make more money.
So like I said, if you think what Stone said was bad enough, just imagine the shit that men are being told every single fucking day of our lives. Just keep that in mind, okay? Let's move on to the next topic. I cannot wait to get started on this topic, female empowerment. So, for those of you that know me well, what do you think I'm gonna say, You do the predictions yourself. However, for those of you that do not know me that well, I'll just spill the beans, okay? I promise you, I'll just say it straight. This show is trying to teach its audience how to kiss females' asses and put them on pedestals and treat them like celebrities. That's it. They want you to believe that females in the whole workforce are just as strong as men. That's the bullshit that they want you to believe. Here are the following examples of female empowerment, okay? Here we go.
Whether it's facing off against dangerous perps, clueless colleagues, or shady suspects, no one can intimidate Olivia Benson.
Rollins is a woman of many talents, but sugarcoating things? Not so much. We're counting down 10 times Rollins was straight up savage.
I can't use my as an alibi because I wasn't with Ma.
Well, then I'm gonna need the name of your other...
I know that it's only been a few seconds from 3 separate videos, but I'm telling you right now, we're not done. There's more.
You're a cop.
Who's the bitch now?
Caught this one with his pants down, just about to do her.
Outside.
I was just trying to help her out.
With your penis?
Look how long it took you to come back.
You think I'm afraid of you?
Get out of my face.
You're my bitch now.
That was just the first compilation of Benson doing the so-called clapback. Let's move on to the second video. This clip is called Bow Down to Badass Benson. Now with the second clip, I know it's only been a few seconds. Notice how it says Bow Down to Badass Benson. That's the title of this YouTube compilation clip. Those first 2 words, bow down. Again, putting females up on pedestals and kissing their ass and kissing their feet and treating them like celebrities and so forth. I'm just saying. Let's continue.
Up against the wall now. Don't make me say that again. Rain this back.
You don't know Benson. She's like a dog with a bone.
I've never seen him before in my life.
Well, that's not what your mom said, Tony.
You see, I'm a good citizen, helping you out and all, so I can go now.
While we appreciate how devastated you are that your drugs are killing people, no, you can't go.
Who's she?
I'm gonna smack your pretty face next time I hear you say ho.
Ladies, and especially the masculine gentlemen out there, do I need to say anything any further? Seriously, this show wants us to believe that, oh my God, these females that are in the workforce, they are so intimidating. That is a beautiful thing. They are so powerful. No, they're not. This is why I don't even have a TV in the first fucking place, because the media and these television shows became so fucking woke nowadays to the point where they try to sell us this bullshit fantasy that, oh yeah, females are just as strong as men. No, they're not. Well, anyway, let's get to the last compilation. Here we go.
Rollins is a woman of many talents, but sugarcoating things? Not so much. We're counting down 10 times Rollins was straight up savage.
Oh, I cannot wait to see these savage moments. Please take it away.
Look deep into my eyes.
You're under arrest.
The only place you're going is Rikers. Sit down.
He's already been to RLR.
Yeah, for Ava's rape. Now he's looking at murder. So I said sit.
No peace for your old friend Sam?
You were so addicted to your own misery. I mean, I'd recommend help, but they don't have a 12-step program for self-pity.
She started crying about that touchdown he almost made.
No, I took him out back and banged his brains out.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think I have to say any more whatsoever. These clips, they say it all. So with that said, let's jump right into the conclusion. I know that this podcast episode was quite long, but I promise you it was for good reasons. So, what can we learn from this? Well, here are the following main points I like to get across. Number 1, the vibe. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, and especially you gentlemen out there, always be mindful of what you say and be mindful of what you do, especially your actions, okay? Because you never know if somebody is having a bad day. And what happens if you go up to a female and then right away at the speed of a finger snap, she accuses you of something that you did not commit? Okay, so keep that in mind and keep your distance, okay? Do not approach a female if she does not want to be approached. Plain and simple. Number 2, toxic masculinity. In my personal opinion, there is no such thing as toxic masculinity, okay? At the end of the day, if you get offended over something that a man does, that's your fucking problem, okay? That is not the man's problem. You understand that? And for all of you leftist people and for all of you progressive morons out there, I got a message for you. I do not give 2 fucks if I hurt your feelings, okay? If you cannot handle real men, that is on you. Being masculine, being a man is not toxic whatsoever. You guys are. All of you progressive, feminazi, social justice warrior people, you're the ones that are toxic. Okay? Stop putting a fucking label like toxic on the word masculinity. Okay? Don't do that. And last but not least, female empowerment. Stop putting these females up on pedestals and kissing their ass and kissing their feet and treating them like celebrities. And stop selling us this bullshit fantasy where, oh, all females are just as strong as men. They can handle themselves. They're so strong and independent. No, they're not, okay? That's a false narrative made by the feminazi movement. Keep that in mind. So with all of that said, this concludes this episode of my incredible podcast. So thank you very much for watching. Do not forget to Hulk smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, share this with your boys and your fat ass families. Follow me on Instagram, smash that bell notification button, and every single one of you, have a wonderful and blessed day. Peace out.
When you leave, I'm begging you not to go. Call your name 2-3 times in a row.